Thank you guys so much for inviting me up. Like I said earlier, I've done this for 17 years. I've been very blessed to have a lot of very special dogs in my life and accomplish some really good things. But the longer I do this, the more I enjoy teaching and giving back. And I feel like that is something that not enough people do in the sport, is give back what the sport has given them. And Margot and I talked about this extensively before we came up here. And I talked to some people last night. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the club that I was in when I first started. We had an amazing leadership, and they were all about building the new members that came in. Had I not had that, I would not be where I am today. And I think that's what a lot of clubs miss, is people come in and they get in the monotony of running test and running test and running test, and then they feel like they're not getting anything back to help them progress. So when she asked me if I could do this, I jumped on the opportunity because I love to try to help people progress, and I want them to be as good as they can possibly be at training their dog. So with that being said, we're going to jump into today's lessons. Yesterday we covered an exit point on what is acceptable in the water and what is not. Today we're going to talk about what is an entry point. All right, but we're also going to have an exit point down there. I forgot to put that out. We add it to our little board here as well. Now, we'll put a ribbon down there. Well, we don't really need a ribbon. We can pretty much see the little bush on the right side of the ribbon where it's going to land. There is a reason why I'm so strict on what is acceptable when we're throwing singles on water. Can anybody tell me why that is? If we can't get it perfect as a single, we have no shot when it's a memory bird, especially in this particular mark. So what we're doing here, this black line here, is the road that goes around that back levee. This is our water. We've got a long running entry into this water. We have a road leading them around there. We have a gunner that's going to be sitting out here that they're going to be looking at. Everything is sucking them right on this initial line on this mark. So as you can see, the ribbon on the far bank is where our bird's going to land. The ribbon on this front bank is what is acceptable for our dog to get in. They must be left of that ribbon. It's pretty tight. It's really tight. But it's so crucial that we get this right. The reason being is if we threw that as a memory bird and we haven't got it right as a single, I promise you these dogs are going to go, whoa, they're going to go around in a heartbeat. Or either they're going to get in here, and if the wind's blowing that way, they're going to end up hunting right over here, all around that gun, smelling all the scent from the birds, and they're never going to end up getting that mark. Now you had to handle. So it's so crucial. Your standard on singles, especially around the water, needs to be damn near perfect when you're running singles. It's a single. Now, when you start throwing a multiple, every memory bird, my standard is going to be a little looser and a little looser. Why? The difficulty of the fact that they've already retrieved more things. They're having to remember exactly where that bird is. Okay, so if this is a memory bird, if I was throwing this as a multiple, my entry point may be like right over here. Not much different, but a little bit more right. But just a little bit, not a lot. But as a single, I want it damn near perfect every time. That's how we're going to build good water dogs. Now, as you throw more marks like this in this scenario, what's cool is you'll start to see these dogs run down this road and they'll look at that gun and they'll immediately know I'm supposed to be in the water. As soon as they see that picture, that's when you know you're really getting somewhere. Now, let's talk about the opposite end of the spectrum. Am I okay with this dog just bailing into the water over here? No. It's the same thing as cheating the mark. Why would a dog just bail in over the water over here?
Pressure to stay on line, so he wants to get in the water as quick as possible.
Too much pressure to getting in the water. you've created way too much pressure on that dog. That dog needs to be comfortable enough to run past that water and then get in here. So what do we do if we've got a dog that's had so much pressure around the water? And you'll see it a lot of times at a test. You'll come in and they'll have a watermark like that, and you'll see dogs go sploosh, and they end up going way over here and hunting around and getting it. They've had too much pressure around the water. So if we have a dog that does that, they get in over here, we're not going to put any pressure on it. We're just going to stop them. No here. We'll step up a little bit. If they do it again, no here. We'll step up a little bit and then run it. What we also could do is step up maybe halfway, take a white bumper, throw it and splash it in line with where we're going, and send them. Just help them kind of get rid of that anxiety of this, oh crap, there's water, I got to get in it as quick as I can. And then throw the mark. Always try to simplify it for those type dogs. All right, so this is what we're going to do today. We're going to do a mark at a time. I feel like Largo and I discussed we can get more out of if we just do one at a time. We run these dogs through it and then we switch to another mark. Okay. On this mark, we're going to talk about it where acceptable on entry and exit. The next mark, I'm going to influence them to get out of the water as a single. We're going to talk about what's acceptable about where they get out. Okay. So each mark's going to have its own challenge. But I cannot stress enough around the water how crucial it is on singles that you expect almost perfection. Now, we talked yesterday, there's only two ways to make a mark hard, right? What are those two things? Right. So when we're around the water and we're teaching, this water's making it hard to get to correctly, right? So we need the end of that to be easy to find a lot of the times. So on this property, we got a good bit of cover around all the water. What can we do to make it easier to find? We could put a white bucket. We could salt the area.
Get a mower out?
You could weed eat the spot out they're gonna fall. We can weed eat the area the fall, whatever you need to do. But if this dog does these two steps properly, I want them to be rewarded right there. I don't want them to have to gut hunt all around there to find that bird. I want them to be, oh, there it is. Why? Because that dog gave me enough effort to navigate the hazards of the mark that I set up. And I want it to be rewarded when it does it. Does that make sense? So when you're around the water is your hazard. It's what's making it hard to get to correctly. So when we're teaching, we need the end destination and the mark to be easy to find.
Clark, would you leave it on land and salt the area, or
Yes.
a bucket before you made a splash?
You can put a bucket there if you needed to with a younger dog, just to make it more black and white.
Or would you do those before you move the mark to a splash?
I would rather not splash this mark in this scenario if I can help it. Because then you're kind of taking the decision process away of this entry as much. So I would put a white bucket out there before I splashed it. Because if I put that bumper in the water, that dog's going to be more likely to get in the water. But if I have an object deep of the water, it knows that it's on land, it's more likely to try to run around it. All right. So the mistakes we know most of these dogs are going to make, just by what we saw yesterday. I didn't see any dogs that were overly watery. Not a one. So I don't think we're going to have any of this going this way. But I think we're going to have a lot of sin. We're going to have a whole lot of that. Okay? So how are we going to handle that?
No here before they get in the water.
We're going to let them commit to not getting in where we want them. Call them back in and cast. All right. Now, if we call them back in here and we cast them and they go there, what are we going to do? Not a daggum thing. Why? Because they got in the water. Now, if they're going out to sea, let's go have the gunner give a hey hey and throw another one and get them over there to it. And then we're going to repeat it. All right. This is one of the most important parts of having an entry point. When they go through here, we must let them commit to going over here. We need to stop them before they get in the water. I don't.
Stop them before they get in?
Yep.
Okay. If it's the wrong part.
Yep. Why?
You don't want to make a correction when they're in the water.
I don't ever want to call them back out of the water. Getting in the water should always be a good thing. So I want to stop them, call them back. Because in their mind, that dog, when they get in the water and you let them get out here and you stop them, no, here. They may or may not, but it's a very good possibility. They may think, okay, as soon as I got in the water, he called me back. Maybe that's not what he wants. And if that happens and then they go like this, the next thing a person out of human nature is going to do is they're going to start kicking their ass with a collar. Well, guess what? That's because we let them get in the water and we stopped them. They may have perceived that as he didn't want me to get in the water. So is that fair to him? I cannot stress, you must be fair. You can be hard on a dog as long as it's fair. Does that make sense?
What happens if the dog runs through the whistle and hits the water?
The dog runs through the whistle and hits the water, I would recall him back. Yes.
Because then you're disciplined.
Yep, for the whistle. Now, I would immediately, because of that, what may happen there, I'd immediately scoot up somewhere in there, running that mark. That's a good question. Always think about what might happen. Some may run through it and then get in the water. If they do, just get them stopped. Don't make a big deal about it. No here. Simplify the task at hand. Yes, ma'am.
Question, you're starting back here and then you go closer if he's not
Mhm.
entering right. Why not start at the water, get him to enter right, and then keep moving back?
You could. That's a good question. You absolutely could do that. But why do I not like to do that?
Give the dog the opportunity to make the correction. And make
I want them to engage their mind of why they weren't allowed to do that. We're not going to use any physical pressure on the dogs I've seen here today, other than maybe a couple of them that are more advanced. Just going to use a recall. All right. The reason why, and you can do that, that would be a good option with a dog that has very, very low confidence and drive. That would be a good option. But here comes the issue with that. If we do that too much, it becomes a crutch. All right? We've shown you the line, we backed yourselves up. We've shown you the line, we backed ourselves up. What happens at the test when they throw that bird and you can't walk up there and show them the line? Now they got to make that decision on their own. But you've never made them make that decision on their own. So just because they've done that 100 times right with you showing them the line, and that becomes a memory bird, and now the responsibility's on their shoulders, yeah, they're probably not getting in the water.
Now, Clark, would you, so you taught this concept, would you just take this concept to a couple different areas and
Mhm.
continue the same concept?
Absolutely.
So the dog was consistently understanding what the expectation was?
100%. And what she's saying by that is, we get really good at doing this particular mark here. Now I want to find somewhere that's very similar to it to show them the same picture. Something that looks very similar. Same scenario. And see what I get out of that dog. Now, if that dog, in a different scenario, comes out here and we see it get close to the water's edge, push off and go get it, guess what? Now we know that dog understands exactly what we were trying to teach him.
How do you differentiate no here with a cast versus no here all the way back to heel?
All right, that's a great question. So, with the younger dogs, and younger doesn't necessarily mean age, it's about understanding. So with a younger dog that I'm teaching this to, that's the key point. I'm going to recall and cast and show them what I want. We let them commit to the wrong decision. Now I need to show them the correct decision. Now, what we started on land with that decoy or a chair, you see how this is so crucial at this point when we get here? Everything builds off each other. You think that dog of hers was confused on land doing it with a decoy? Come over here and try to do it on water without showing it how to do it over there. Whew, it's going to be a disaster. Everything builds off each other. Now, Teaching, I'm going to recall and cast. All right?
We
Take-
call and cast from where they are.
Yeah, let's say this dog takes off right here, and I see right in this area here it makes the decision to go there. I stop it. I'm going to recall it to where it's back on the line to that bird and cast it. Now, what am I looking for out of this cast? Make a different decision than what it did before. So if it cast out to sea here, we're good with that. Why? Made a different decision than what it did before, right? Now, a dog like, say, Flurry, she's got a Grand Pass Master Hunter. She knows better than this. If Flurry is sent and starts to do this, I'm going to stop right there, and there's going to be a pretty stern correction. Pretty stern. And I'm going to recall her all the way back by my side, and I'm going to resend her. Why? She's been taught. Her understanding level is here. So my standard is here. So I can't reiterate that enough. As you see your dog start to learn what you want it, that means their level of understanding is rising. That means our standard has to rise with it. If their understanding keeps rising and our standard never rises of what we expect out of them, guess what? We're going to always keep what we got. We're never going to make them any better. And that's our goal. Every day we come out, our goal should be to make that dog a little better today. With that being said, there's some things that I want to touch on that I have not talked about from the very beginning. Every day you train, every bird that you throw, every blind that you run should have a purpose. You should never just walk out there and we'll just throw one here, throw one there, throw one there. Every bird should have a purpose. You should know why you're throwing that bird there. Why am I throwing that bird there? Well, this is what I'm looking to get out of that mark. Or this is what I'm looking to get out of that blind. The only time you should go out there and then they still have a purpose, is just go out there, all right, we're going to go in this flat field and just throw some marks. They still have a purpose. When you're doing that, you should be doing something, okay, my dog, I'm seeing a little drop of attitude training. So I'm going to go out here and make these birds as easy as I can do and let them have some success. Those marks still have a purpose, but you're doing it for a reason to bring the dog's attitude up. That purpose today wasn't to go train and make them better. It was a rehab scenario. Does that make sense?
What are your triggers for a dog that needs rehab?
All right, that's a good question. So let's say those water marks we threw yesterday. We got into a big battle with a dog. With a dog. Let's just assume that happened. And we finally got it. And then today I came and trained and did some water marks. And they did them, but man, their just attitude wasn't good. I could tell I had some residual from that battle yesterday. That tells me right there, I'm reading that dog. Well, tomorrow I probably just need to do some really easy stuff with him. Let him have some confidence and bring himself back up. Read the dog. They'll tell you all you need to know. You have to read them. I mean, you guys have seen so many different dogs this weekend. You've seen dogs come to the line screaming and hollering. You've seen dogs come to the line the first day that were really unsure. Well, as we've done this without giving them a ton of pressure and taught, seen their attitudes come up. Now, as their level of understanding rises and we start holding them to a higher standard, you're going to start to see some attitudes dip and something go back up. It's going to be kind of like a flow chart. They're going to go up and down. You hear pros talk about dogs in peaks and valleys. That's what they are. Especially like a mark like this. Flurry is justified in getting a lot of pressure for cheating that, right? I'm going to kick her tail pretty good for it and recall her. Let's say I had 4 marks like that today and she got in trouble on 3 of them. Her attitude's probably not going to be very good tomorrow, right? But was I justified on getting onto her? Hell yeah, I was, because she knows better. So tomorrow I probably need to do something a little easier on her. But we've got to hold her accountable for her actions because we've taught her what's right and what's wrong. We can't just back off of it and say, well, I can't get onto her because it may hurt her attitude. We got to get onto her somehow. We'll pick her back up later.
How do you think about tempo, or meaning, like when I was playing sports, we used to just train.
Mhm.
Now there's a lot more around recovery. And, how do you think about a dog's processing speed and when they need a break versus if you train 7 days a week, you potentially have rest days? How do you?
All right. That is different on every dog. Now, a fire-breathing dragon, like in his name Frank, he needs to be trained every single day. There's no such thing as a break for Frank. Because if you give Frank a break, that son of a gun's going to be nuts when you bring him back out. Now, your dog, for example, it may be good to really push it for 2 or 3 days and give it a day or 2 off. Every dog's different. Now, especially as they age, there's a lot of dogs I've got at the kennel that are 9 years old that train 2 to 3 days a week, and that's it. I don't want to put any more mental pressure on them. There's nothing more I can teach them at this point in time.
You're just keeping them home.
Yeah.
Yep.
All I'm doing is keeping them in shape and making sure that I'm keeping them honest. If I push them any more than that, do they really need it? No. And that's a good thing to bring up talking about recovery. If you are training every single day, which that's what I do for a living, a lot of the times, even if I'm not running a test, I'm training at least 6 days a week. We're asking a lot out of these dogs. A lot. Mentally and physically. I'm a big advocate on supplements. I use them every single day. I mean, the side of my trailer looks like a pharmacy. Why? I'm asking a lot of them. They're giving me a lot of effort. So I feel like the least I can do is make sure that I'm doing everything I can do to take care of them.
What's the very minimal supplement that you would think, the average? Because, I mean, let's face it, our guys, unless you're retired, you're not training 6 days a week, right? I mean, I can't. I have to cut.
So what I like to use just on the minimum is a product by Zoom Dog. It's called Hunt Dog Hunt, and it's got a joint supplement in it, but it's got a lot of things to help them recover from strenuous training activities, and they get it every single day.
And it's from
Zoom Dog makes it. That would be the minimum. I mean, especially if you're training really hard. As they get older, 8 to 10 years old, I would probably put them on something like Dasequin, or I would put them on some polyglycan or Adequin. Polyglycan and Adequin are joint. They're injectables for joints. Those dogs can't tell us when they're hurting. So it's our job to make sure that we try to keep them in the best shape as we possibly can. So I'm a big advocate of using supplements. So the Hunt Dog Hunt would be my bare minimum. The ones that I use every day, I put my dogs every morning get a daily vitamin. Zoom Dog makes a daily vitamin that we give every morning. Every afternoon they get the Hunt Dog Hunt. My older stud dogs also get Oxy Stud in it as well, and fish oil.
What is Oxystat? Is it just
It just helps bring up sperm count for them. I use fish oil religiously for them. So that's a good question that brought up something. Oxy Stud. It just helps bring up sperm count on older males.
So don't use that on a younger male?
No need to.
well, theory?
Shouldn't.
You just get the fish oil from the grocery store, that fish oil? Or
Yeah, I order mine off Amazon. I just get the salmon oil. That's it. That'll help with their coats, and it helps with their joints a little bit.
I mean, the premise is good solid dog food, right? I mean, you feed
But even with that,
I mean, we all have our preferences, right?
even with that,
Even with that, I mean, every dog food bag I ever looked at, well, it's got, glucosamine and chondroitin in it and fish oil. And there's only so much that the dog is going to absorb, correct?
correct.
So, but I don't know, I personally do not feel that dog food has everything that it needs. I think we
No.
need to add.
I agree with that.
Unfortunately.
And what they don't use is just going to pass through them. So you're not hurting them. There's something else I wanted to say about that, but I lost it there for a second. So the care of the dogs is super important. I don't know if anybody here is a pro or aspiring to be a pro. That is one of the biggest misconceptions about a pro. A pro, our number one job should be the care of the dogs. Number one. That's your number one job. I don't care if you train a dog to be a field champion, SRS champion, grand champion, master hunter for somebody. If they show up and he's skin and bones and doesn't look good, They don't give a damn how he's running. It's the care of the dogs is number one. And I preach that to people that are starting. They do not care what they run like if they look like crap. Got to take care of them.
Gotta have a good looking.
Yeah. They got to look the part. They have to be well taken care of. And it doesn't take much to look at that. And that's not just physically, that's mentally too. Every one of you guys have been to a hunt test before, and the dog may look real good, but you can tell that dog's not in a good state of mind. So that goes both ways. And it's our job as a trainer to make sure we're taking care of them that way. All right, so this is going to be our mark today, so I get off my soapbox on preaching on taking care of dogs. So let's start with this mark right here. We'll move to another one after we run enough dogs on this to where we see all the mistakes they can make and work through it. And then our next mark, we're going to really influence dogs to get out of the water by the use of one of these points and where the gun is.